Okay, so this is the last part of Module 14, Transport Layer. We'll discuss UDP. UDP stands for User Datagram Protocol. There are services that uses UDP. Okay. Again, the advantage of UDP is that it is fast. Okay, because you know what, in TCP, let's say I have two computers, A and then B. Okay, A and B. So let's say A will send this data here. Okay. Then again, data are being segmented, right? Example, let's say 1 and 2. So I have two segments here. Say for example, A will send the first segment. So B receives that, right? So already B has segment 1. Okay? Now in TCP, before A will send the second segment, segment 2, B has to send an acknowledgement, an ACK. Okay? Before A can send the second segment. Okay? So if you notice, so that's how it is. So example, if there will be series of segments here, 3, 4, and 5. So, and let's say the only capacity to send is only one segment at a time. So before sending the next segment, A still is waiting for acknowledgement. Not like in UDP. In UDP, there's no acknowledgement. It doesn't have any acknowledgement. So when A will send this, it will send segment 1. After sending segment 1, it will send right away the segment 2, and then the segment 3, and then segment 4. So this is why it's faster as compared to TCP. Okay, because there's no acknowledgement, there's no idle period, idle time in the transmission of the segments. Okay, that's how UDP works. Okay, there's no sequence number. So in a way, in UDP is, so the first segment being received, the UDP will uh, take note that that is the first segment. The second segment is the next segment. That's how UDP understands the order of the segments. Okay, there's no error correction, also no resending. Okay, and there's no three-way handshake. The moment that you connect, A is connected to B, it has already a network connection. Okay, and A will send a data to B. There's no establishment of the connection. Automatically, A will send that right away. Okay, so that is how UDP works. These are the specific header in UDP. Still in UDP, it has port numbers, source port and destination port. Again, source port is the one that identifies the session. Okay? So, example, you open the browser, you type google.com. So, what UDP will do, or even to TCP, is it will generate a source port for that session. Okay, say 49152. The destination port, it identifies the service. Checksum is error detection, and length identifies the length of the header. And of course, the most important part is the data being sent. Okay, TCP has 20 bytes in the header, while UDP has 8 bytes. Okay, take note of that. So these are the specific header field of UDP. I have explained this on the previous slide. And these are the different services that UDP that uses UDP. So we have the HTTP. This will be discussed in chapter 15, the last module. DNS, also discussed in the last module. SNMP, a network management protocol used by network monitoring software. This is discussed in Cisco 3 and Cisco 4. TFTP, you will use this in Cisco 2. Okay, because there it is discussed. We use TFTP to backup config, backup yung iOS files and configuration. Okay, you will explore on this in Cisco 2. And IP phone, VoIP, voice over IP phones, and then video conferencing. Okay, like Zoom, diba? These are examples of video conferencing. So these are some of the services that uses UDP. Okay, we mentioned a while ago in UDP, it doesn't have any error correction, no acknowledgement. Okay, example how with video conferencing. Okay, there's no acknowledgement, there's no sequence number. The challenge on the UDP is how will the sender know that the data has been received? Like, not like in video conferencing. The fact that you see the other person, it means that you are receiving the data coming from him or her. Okay, and say for example you are talking, and say for example the connection has been cut or choppy, right? What we usually do is say resend. Hey, can you say it again? So like in UDP, it is the responsibility of the user not to resend the data in case there are any errors during transmission. Okay, so UDP is considered unreliable because of that. Okay, not like TCP considered as reliable. Okay, so again in UDP, there's no error correction, no resending. It's up to the responsibility of the user to ask the receiver to resend, to ask the sender to resend. No acknowledgement, no error recovery. Okay. Very important to take note those services that uses UDP and those services or application layer protocol that uses TCP. Both TCP and UDP are both at IP address as both uh, supports both TCP and UDP. And then the port numbers. Again, port numbers are the ones that are the number that identifies the application. Again, this is the one that identifies the session, and then this is the one that identifies the application layer. Okay. Analogy here in the port number is like this. Port number is an added information. It's like an envelope, and sometimes there is an envelope appropriate to the letter. Example, let's say if the letter is if the envelope is colored pink and then scented, right? So most likely the letter is a love letter, right? If you see that the envelope has that logo of Meralco, so most likely what's inside is a Meralco bill, right? That's how it is, right? So why do we have that kind of format for an envelope? Well, because it helps the user to um, process whatever it will be processed, whatever needs to be processed with the letter being received. Okay, example, you received a scented envelope color pink. Oh, you know already, okay, this is coming from my suitor na I do not like. So, you won't bother reading the letter, just throw it in the trash. Okay? Same thing here in the operating system. Sometimes port numbers are used for security purpose. So, for example, the moment that the the operating system saw that the port number is 25. Okay, 25 is like email, for example. Say 25. And let's say this is like a love letter. The OS do not care whatever content there is, but what the operating system or the firewall in the OS will needs to know is that, okay, if it's a love letter, uh, I will drop it. So the moment that the operating system see that the port number is 25, what the operating system will do is to ignore or drop this. Okay, uh, if there's no port number, then the operating system would need to dig into the letter, diba? Read the letter, check, okay, this is a love letter, then I will drop it. Okay, so and with that, we having no port numbers, it will take time before the letter being to be processed. Okay, so that's the use of the port number. Uh, will we'll have this firewall set up in Cisco to access control lists, yung defining policy, security policy, and there you will notice that port number is one thing to take note, very important concept that you need to know when you deal with security policy, because again, these port numbers are the ones that identifies the application layer protocol. It identifies, that's the one that identifies if it is a love letter, a Meralco bill, a credit card bill, so on and so forth. Okay? Or like in this case, the port number is the one that identifies if it is an email, a web browser, a file transfer, so on and so forth. Okay? Uh, Again, the moment that we send data, series of addresses are added, like the MAC, source and destination MAC, also the IP, source and destination IP. Okay? Combining the source IP to the source port number and destination IP and destination port numbers. We call it as a socket. We usually see this format of the socket in Netstat. That's why this one is discussed. I'll show you later the Netstat command. It's a very important tool or command, usually used, a part of network monitoring. These are the different category of the port numbers. So those that I mentioned, the port numbers that defines application layer protocols, they are grouped or classified as well-known ports. So there are like 1024 port numbers, 0 to 1023 to it. Okay? These are regulated by the IANA, Internet Assigned Numbers Authority. There's a website where you can see all those port numbers. Okay? And then there's the registered port, okay, ranging to 1024 to 49151. There are specific services. Example, let's say for the radio server, so a port number for that is 1812. It's under registered port. Port numbers for RDP, remote desktop connection or remote desktop protocol. So there's a registered port for that. Okay. And then we have the private or dynamic ports, also known as ephemeral ports. And again, when an operating system initiate a connection, it will assign a port number, and usually it is in the range of the private or dynamic ports. That is in the range of 49152 to 65535. So these are the port numbers. Again, there are 1024s, but these those that are listed here are the important ones that you need to memorize. These should be memorized. Okay, you have to take note of this port number. So again, for FTP, we have two ports, 20 and 21. For SSH, its port number is 22. Telnet is 23. SMTP is 25. DNS is 53. DHCP for the server side is 67. On the client side is 68. TFTP is 69. HTTP is 80. POP3 is 110. IMAP is 143. SNMP is 161. And HTTPS is 443. Okay? Should memorize these port numbers. Again, target is you take certification exams. A certification exams is proctored. There's a strict close monitoring on when you are to take certification exams. And usually these port numbers appear in certification exams. So very important that you memorize these port numbers. It's only a few. It's only just one table. As compared for those who are taking board exam, they memorize lots of tables, lots of numbers, lots of formulas, so on and so forth. Okay? You in your case, ito. Okay? You need to memorize that. I know all of this. I'll prove that during our Zoom session. Memorize ko yan. And then the command for you to view the active connection is netstat. Okay, netstat. Very important command. So example, like imagine that this computer or server here, this indicates that this computer, okay, 192.168.1.124, okay, has a connection to 192.168.0.2, okay, and the service is a NetBIOS, and the port number being used by this computer that has an IP address of 192.168.1.124, its generated source port is 3126, and it's established, okay, and it is established there, okay. Again, this computer that has an IP address of 192.168.1.124, it uses a source port of 3158 going to this public IP 207.138.126.152, and that's an HTTP, and it is established. So this part here, okay, that part here, it should be aligned with this established part there. Okay, so that's how it is. For example, let's say this is a local server. You do not expect that you do not expect any outside host to connect on this server. So when you see that there are public IPs here, so that is unusual already. So what you can do is you can block these IP addresses or these connections. Okay, because yun nga, it may be an attack. Okay, because you do not expect again that this computer, or say if this is a server, to have any connection to an outside host. Okay, so that's the use of the that's the use of the netstat. Okay, it is a very important tool to verify connections, monitor connections, and in here you can uh, it is very helpful to identify if there may be a security threat. Okay, so this ends module 14. Thank you. I hope you watch yung mga video, okay, because these are your means of learning. Okay, ayun. So keep safe. I'm done. So keep safe. Together we learn as